They're finally doing it. Ableton just released the 12.1 beta update, and it's a pretty big one. The update has some really cool stuff in it, like auto shift, which is basically Ableton's version of auto-tune, updates to the saturator, a bunch of other MIDI effects and tools, but the one I'm most excited about from a practical standpoint is the updated Ableton stock limiter. I'm team Ableton all the way, but the current stock limiter is something that I felt has been lacking for a long time, and it's usually one of the first third-party software recommendations that I'll suggest for newer producers or artists. Especially in dance music, we push our limiters pretty hard, so we need one that can keep up, or at least tell us what's going on. We're all familiar with the current limiter. There's not a whole lot of features, and there's not very much feedback on the actual interface itself. So if I'm limiting this track here, it's really difficult to see exactly how much gain reduction is taking place. The scale here just makes it really difficult to read accurately, and there's the same amount of space between 0 and -6 decibels of gain reduction as there is between -36 and 42, which I've never even come close to that when limiting. So what that means is it forces you to listen for pumping or audible distortion as an indication that you're pushing your limiter too hard, which is okay, but it's really difficult for newer artists and newer producers to pick that kind of stuff out. You know, and if you're using the limiter wrong in that way, it can really mess up a lot of the hard work that you did on the mixing and production side. Now, if I play the same song with the updated limiter, there's now a dedicated meter that shows us exactly how much gain reduction is taking place. That simple addition to me is huge. As we're getting used to this new limiter, we're probably going to find a rough value range where this limiter works really transparently for a certain genre or a certain tempo of song. And now that we have a dedicated gain reduction meter, we're going to be able to find those values more accurately than with the old limiter, where again, it's really difficult to actually tell how much gain reduction is happening. The only place that I really use the current stock limiter in my workflow is on an occasional bus to catch occasional peaks, but I don't rely very heavily on it, and I'll usually change it out for the Brainworks limiter or the Pro L2. But now that we have a little bit more flexibility and feedback, I'll probably end up using it more. A couple of other new features are the limiter can be used as a maximizer. You can adjust the stereo link percentage, which again is an awesome feature. You can switch between left and right or mid-side. And lastly, you can switch between standard, soft clip, and true peak modes if you want to. There's not a whole lot of information in the release notes yet about the maximize feature or these different modes here, but in general, the limiter is a super basic tool that we're going to need at some point, probably in every song that we make. So I'm really happy to see that it's getting a much needed update.